Kieran moved quietly through the broken landscape of the planet, his boots sinking into the gray dust. The sky was dark with swirling clouds, and flashes of energy lit the horizon where battles still raged. His unit had been sent here to scout enemy positions, but the mission had gone wrong. Communication with headquarters was spotty, and the sound of distant explosions made Kieran's heart pound. He crouched behind a shattered wall of rock, his eyes scanning the ruins for movement. Alien patrols moved across the terrain, their strange shapes blending with the shadows. Kieran's unit had been ambushed earlier and many of his comrades had fallen. The weight of survival pressed on him, but he could not stop. Not yet. A faint sound reached his ears, soft and fragile. A cry, high and trembling. Kieran's instincts immediately changed. He scanned the ruins, looking for the source. There, under a pile of twisted metal and stones, was a small figure. It was a child, clearly alien, with wide, scared eyes. Its limbs were trapped, and it shook with fear. Kieran's breath caught. He had been trained to think of enemies as targets, threats, not helpless children. But he could not leave the child there. Without thinking of the danger, he sprinted toward the rubble. Each step brought him closer to the alien patrols that moved silently around the area. "Hold still," Kieran whispered as he reached the trapped child. The alien looked at him with wide eyes, unsure whether to trust him. Kieran carefully lifted the debris, piece by piece. The child's small hands reached toward him, a gesture that needed no translation. Suddenly, a patrol rounded the corner. Kieran froze. The aliens had sharp weapons, and there was no way he could fight them all while holding the child. He ducked behind a large piece of metal, holding the child close to his chest. The patrol passed, their attention elsewhere. Kieran exhaled slowly, feeling the child's tiny heartbeat against him. "Almost safe," he said softly. The child tilted its head, making a small sound that sounded like relief. Kieran smiled faintly, though his mind raced. He needed to get out of the area, to reach his unit before more patrols arrived. Carefully, he stood and began moving. The terrain was treacherous. Broken metal, scorched earth, and debris threatened to slow him down. Kieran held the child tightly, supporting it as they moved. Every sound could mean discovery, every shadow a threat. His training guided him, but fear for the child's safety gave him a new strength. He could not fail. As they reached a ridge, Kieran spotted his unit in the distance. They had taken cover behind a ridge of rock, returning fire at distant enemies. Kieran waved cautiously. His voice came out in a whisper, almost lost in the wind. "Over here, I have a survivor." A squad member turned, recognition and surprise on their face. They had assumed Kieran was lost. The moment was brief but tense. Kieran dropped behind the rocks, bringing the child down to safety. His unit's medic ran to them immediately, examining the child with careful hands. "Is it alive?" Kieran asked, trying to keep his voice calm. "Yes, just scared and hungry," the medic replied. The child blinked at Kieran, its eyes large and trusting. Kieran felt a strange warmth in his chest. Despite everything, despite the war and the destruction, he had done the right thing. Commanders arrived shortly after, their expressions mixed. Some were angry. "You risked your life in the mission for a child?" one of them demanded. Kieran straightened. "Yes, the child is alive. That matters more than orders." His voice was firm, though calm. Commanders exchanged looks, unsure whether to scold him or acknowledge his courage. Night fell, and Kieran stayed near the child. He did not sleep, keeping watch while his unit regrouped. The alien world around them was quiet for now, but danger was never far. Kieran thought of the patrols, the queen who ruled this planet, and the consequences that might come for saving an enemy child. As dawn approached, a strange feeling filled the air. Kieran sensed they were being watched. He looked toward the horizon and saw a glint of light moving in the sky. Not like a ship, but something alive. His stomach tightened. The child stirred and Kieran put a protective arm around it. Whatever was coming, he would not let it harm the little one. Minutes passed, then a shadow appeared on the ridge opposite them. It was not a soldier, not an ordinary alien. It moved with a grace and confidence that spoke of authority. Kieran's hand went instinctively to his weapon, but the shadow raised a hand in a gesture of peace. A voice echoed in his mind, not spoken aloud but clear. You saved the child. That act has reached me. I wish to meet you." Kieran froze. A mix of awe and fear filled him. This was no ordinary alien soldier. The voice carried power, calmness, and a strange warmth that made him hesitate. He knew immediately that this was the Queen, the ruler of the alien forces, the one who could decide the fate of worlds. The child looked up at Kieran, small hands gripping his armor. Kieran realized then that he had changed something greater than himself. By saving this child, he had set in motion events that could alter the future. He did not yet understand how, but he felt the weight of it. Hours later, communication from his command confirmed what Kieran already feared and hoped. The Queen's forces had acknowledged his act. There were messages, gestures, and subtle signals that indicated the Queen herself wanted to see him. Not as an enemy, not as a prisoner, but as someone important. Kieran stared at the child, now sleeping safely under the medic's watch. "We did what we had to," he whispered. "We have no idea what comes next." The alien patrols had not returned, and the battlefield was quiet, almost peaceful. For the first time since arriving on this war-torn planet, Kieran felt a moment of calm. But deep down, he knew his life had changed. A single act of courage and compassion had brought him to the attention of a being who could shape the galaxy. As the sun rose over the jagged mountains of the alien world, Kieran prepared himself. He would follow the path his choice had created, whatever dangers it held. He had saved a child, and now the universe was watching. The first step of a new journey was about to begin, and Kieran was ready to face it. The wind carried a faint whisper from the horizon, a reminder that nothing in this world was ordinary. And for Kieran, that whisper meant both challenge and opportunity. He risked his life for the enemy's child. Now, the Queen wanted to meet him. Kieran knew he could not turn away. Kieran sat in the small command tent of the human base, his eyes fixed on the alien child sleeping in a secure cradle nearby. The battlefield was far behind them, but the tension in the air remained thick. His unit had managed to survive the ambush, yet the memory of the screams and explosions haunted him. Kieran's thoughts, however, were not on the battle. They were on the child, and on the strange feeling that now seemed to follow him everywhere. The message had arrived that morning. At first, it appeared as an encrypted communication, unusual but not alarming. Kieran opened it carefully. The symbols shifted on the screen, forming words he could understand. "Kieran, you have shown courage and compassion that is rare among your kind. I wish to meet you. Come to my vessel, and you will be treated as an honored guest." Kieran read the message twice. He knew immediately that it was not a casual invitation. The words carried weight and authority. The Queen, the leader of the alien forces that had attacked his planet, was speaking directly to him. His commander entered the tent, eyes narrowed. "Kieran, I saw the message. Do you realize what this could mean?" "I do," Kieran replied calmly. "But the Queen did not demand my surrender. She asked to meet me." The commander shook his head. "This could be a trap. You go, you may never return. We cannot authorize it." Kieran looked at the child. Its small eyes opened and studied him, innocent and trusting. The child's life was already entwined with his choices. "I have to go," he said firmly. "If I refuse, it could harm the child. I need to know why she wants to meet me." After a tense discussion, the commander reluctantly agreed to send a small escort with Kieran. The human team prepared a transport shuttle for the journey to the alien ship, a massive vessel hovering silently above the planet's surface. Kieran checked his equipment carefully, making sure he had only what was necessary. He wanted to show respect and not appear as a threat. But he also needed to be prepared. The shuttle lifted off, leaving the dust and ruins behind. Kieran looked down at the planet, scarred by war but still alive, still capable of hope. The child remained safely at the base, cared for by the medics. Kieran thought of the Queen and the strange mixture of curiosity and caution building inside him as the shuttle approached the alien vessel. Kieran's eyes widened. The ship was immense, far larger than anything humanity had built. Its surface shimmered with an unusual light, and strange patterns moved along its hull. There were no windows, only smooth surfaces that seemed alive. Kieran felt a mix of awe and fear. Inside the shuttle, the air grew warmer as they approached the docking bay. Alien symbols glowed softly on the walls. Kieran realized that the ship was not only a fortress, but a home for an entire species. He could feel their presence, the quiet strength of beings unlike any he had known. The hatch opened, and the escort signaled him to move forward. Kieran stepped into the vessel, and the world changed immediately. The interior was vast and elegant, with towers of light and floating platforms. Aliens of many shapes and sizes moved gracefully, observing him with curious eyes. They spoke in soft tones, not threatening, yet filled with intelligence and caution. One of them approached him, a tall figure with long limbs and smooth blue skin. "Welcome, Kieran," it said in a voice that resonated in his mind. "You are safe here. The Queen awaits you." Kieran nodded, unsure how to respond. The escort remained close, but it was clear their presence was more for guidance than protection. Every step Kieran took made him feel smaller, yet stronger, as though he were walking into a world where courage and kindness mattered more than power and weapons. They reached a platform that moved upward slowly, carrying Kieran to the central chamber of the ship. From the moment he entered, he could sense the Queen's presence. It was not a physical feeling, but an awareness, a warmth and authority that filled the room. Then he saw her. The alien queen was unlike anything he had imagined. She stood tall, her form graceful and commanding. Her eyes glowed with a soft light, and her voice reached him not through sound, but directly in his mind. "You saved my child," she said. "I have watched your actions. Most of your kind would not have risked their lives for one so small. Tell me, Kieran, why did you do it?" Kieran hesitated, then spoke honestly. "Because it was right. No matter the enemy, no matter the danger, a child's life matters. I could not leave it behind." The Queen regarded him quietly. There was no anger, no judgment, only understanding. "You are brave, Kieran, and you are compassionate. These qualities are rare, even among my own people." She gestured, and the child appeared beside her, unharmed and calm. Its small hands reached for Kieran, and he knelt down, letting the child grasp his finger. The connection was immediate. The child looked at him with trust and recognition, and Kieran felt a sense of responsibility heavier than any weapon he had carried. "You have changed the course of my decisions," the Queen continued. "Your courage has reached beyond this battlefield. I wish to know more about you, about your people. Perhaps we can find a path that does not end in war." Kieran straightened, realizing the magnitude of her words. The Queen was offering him a chance not just to survive, but to influence the future. But he also sensed the dangers. There were others aboard the ship who would not see him as a friend. Some would question his motives. Others might consider him a threat. The Queen led him through the ship, showing him the city-like environment within. Beings of all shapes moved with purpose, some in study, others in training or conversation. Kieran observed their technology, elegant and efficient, and marveled at their peaceful coexistence. Yet he knew that war was never far away. They reached a chamber where the Council of Elders awaited. Kieran bowed slightly, unsure of protocol, but showing respect. The elders observed him with sharp, intelligent eyes, whispering among themselves. Kieran realized that they would be judging him, testing him without words. The Queen spoke on his behalf, praising his courage and honesty. She explained the situation on their planet, the threats they faced, and the delicate balance of power that hung over their species. Kieran listened carefully, absorbing every detail. His mind worked quickly, thinking of ways humans and aliens could cooperate to avoid further conflict. As the conversation continued, Kieran noticed subtle glances from some council members. Not all of them trusted him. Some were skeptical, questioning the wisdom of the Queen in showing favor to a human soldier. Kieran understood that he would need to prove himself not only through words, but through actions. The Queen finally addressed him again. "You will remain aboard my ship for now? Learn our ways, see our world, and understand the weight of the choices you have set in motion. Your presence here is not punishment nor reward. It is an opportunity." Kieran nodded, accepting the responsibility. He knew that the journey ahead would be difficult. He would face tests of courage, morality, and loyalty. Yet he also felt a quiet determination. Saving the child had been the first step. Now, he would take the next. As he settled into the chamber prepared for him, Kieran allowed himself a moment of reflection. The battlefield was behind him, but the true challenge lay ahead. He had entered a world of elegance, intelligence, and power beyond human imagination. And he had earned the attention of a queen who could decide the fate of entire species. He thought of the child, safe and curious, and felt a sense of purpose stronger than fear. Whatever trials awaited him, he would meet them with courage. He had already risked everything for one life. Now he would risk everything for understanding, peace, and the chance to change the future. Night came aboard the alien ship, a gentle luminescence filling the vast chambers. Kieran gazed out at the stars through a window that stretched endlessly, seeing worlds he had only dreamed of. He realized that the universe was larger, more complex, and more beautiful than he had ever imagined. And he understood that his actions, small as they seemed, had already begun to ripple across the galaxy. Kieran closed his eyes for a moment, listening to the quiet hum of the ship. The Queen's presence was never far, a reminder that courage and compassion could reach even the most distant hearts. He felt ready. Ready for whatever the next days would bring. Ready to face challenges, tests, and discoveries that could change not just his life, but the fate of two worlds. The shuttle that had carried him was long gone. Kieran was here now in the heart of alien power, on the threshold of something greater than war or survival. And for the first time in a long while, he felt a true sense of hope. He had followed his heart to save a child. Now, that heart would guide him through uncharted territory, toward the unknown and toward the Queen who wanted to meet him. Kieran woke to a soft light filtering through the chamber walls of the Queen's ship. The glow seemed alive, shifting in gentle patterns across the floor and ceiling. He stretched, feeling the stiffness from the long journey, and reminded himself that he was no longer on the battlefield. He was inside the heart of the alien world, surrounded by beings he had once considered enemies. The door opened silently, and a tall, graceful figure entered. "Good morning, Kieran," the alien said. Its skin shimmered like polished silver, and its eyes reflected intelligence and curiosity. "The Queen requests your presence in the council chamber. She wishes to show you the city and introduce you to those who will guide you." Kieran nodded and followed. Every step through the corridors was a marvel. The walls were smooth, curved, and glowing softly. Strange plants floated in clear containers, and delicate streams of light moved like water along the floors. Aliens of many forms walked calmly, exchanging quiet conversation. Kieran could feel their awareness, their interest in him, yet none seemed hostile. As they approached the chamber, Kieran felt a mixture of awe and apprehension. The Queen's presence was near, though she was not yet visible. The room opened into a vast space where the council waited. Kieran realized that the chamber was not just a meeting hall. It was a place of learning, strategy, and governance, where decisions affecting entire worlds were made. The Queen appeared at the center, her form elegant and commanding. Her eyes, glowing softly, held him in place with their intensity. "Welcome, Kieran," she said. "Today you will meet those who shape our decisions and see how our people live. It is important that you understand their ways if you are to help create a future of cooperation." Kieran bowed slightly, respecting her authority. He felt nervous but determined. This was not a battlefield. His courage here would be measured by wisdom, respect, and understanding, not by how fast he could run or how many enemies he could fight. The Queen gestured, and the council members approached. They were of varied appearances, some tall and slender, others shorter with armored forms, and some that seemed almost ethereal. Each of them studied Kieran with intensity. He sensed questions without words, and judgments without speech. One of the council members, a being with translucent skin that revealed faintly glowing veins, spoke directly to him. "You have saved the child, and we are grateful. Tell us, Kieran, how does your species value life?" Kieran thought carefully. "We believe every life has value," he said, "not because it is easy or safe, but because it is right. The child you asked me to save was small and scared. I could not leave it behind. That is how we measure courage and morality. A ripple passed through the council. Some nodded, others exchanged glances. Kieran realized he had made an impression. The queen smiled faintly. Your words reflect honor, she said. But words alone are not enough. Actions are tested through understanding, cooperation, and endurance. You will see our world and learn our ways. You will be tested in small ways at first, and then in ways that matter. Kieran followed the queen and a guide out of the chamber into the heart of the ship. The city inside the vessel was incredible. Buildings rose like crystal towers, connected by bridges of light. Aliens moved through the streets with calm precision, tending to tasks, training, or studying. Kieran observed carefully, noting their organization, their technology, and their peaceful interactions. Your species fights often, the queen said, her voice calm but penetrating. Our people value harmony, but we must also defend ourselves. You may find it strange, Kieran, but courage does not always come from battle. Sometimes it comes from restraint, observation, and careful choice. Kieran nodded, understanding. He had fought on battlefields where victory was measured in numbers, yet he had saved a child without thinking of the consequences. Perhaps this was the first lesson in true courage. They reached a training arena where alien soldiers practiced. Kieran watched as they moved with grace, their movements precise and powerful. Some carried weapons that shimmered with energy, others trained without arms. Focusing on agility and mental discipline, a soldier approached Kieran, bowing slightly. I am here to help you understand our skills, the alien said. Your presence is unusual, but your courage is clear. You will learn, and perhaps we will learn from you as well. The alien child appeared, following the queen closely. When the child saw Kieran, it ran toward him, laughing softly. Kieran knelt and hugged the child gently. You are safe, he whispered. The child's small hands pressed against his chest, and Kieran felt a deep bond forming. He realized that his actions had created trust, the most powerful link between species. The queen led him to a library, a place filled with floating texts and devices. Knowledge is the foundation of understanding, she said. Here you will learn about our history, our species, and the threats we face. You will see why the child you saved is so important. Kieran studied carefully, absorbing information about the alien civilization, its values, and the challenges it faced. He learned that the child was not only the queen's heir, but also a symbol of hope for unity and peace. Protecting the child meant more than ensuring safety. It meant securing the future of the species. As the day progressed, Kieran met scholars, engineers, and warriors. Each interaction taught him something new about patience, respect, and diplomacy. Some council members observed silently, testing his reactions, while others engaged him directly, asking questions about humanity's choices and values. During a break, Kieran spoke with the child alone. Do you understand why I helped you? He asked. The child tilted its head and made a soft sound. Kieran smiled. Right. It does not matter if you understand now. One day, you will see that courage is measured by kindness, not by strength. The child's eyes reflected trust and admiration, and Kieran felt a warmth in his chest. Saving the child had been the right choice, and now he could see the ripple of consequences expanding outward. He was no longer just a soldier. He was part of a larger story, one that involved understanding, diplomacy, and hope. Evening came aboard the ship, and the queen summoned him once more. You have seen our ways today, she said. Tomorrow, you will face a challenge that tests your courage, intelligence, and loyalty. It is not a battle of weapons, but of judgment. How you respond will determine the next steps of our journey together. Kieran listened carefully. He understood that these tests would push him to his limits, but he did not feel fear. He felt resolve. His choices had brought him here, and he would face what came next with the same courage that had guided him to save the child. As he returned to his quarters, Kieran looked out at the vast city within the ship. The lights shimmered like stars, the streets moved with purpose, and the aliens lived in harmony despite their strength and power. He realized that this world, though alien, shared one thing with humanity: the value of life and courage. Kieran sat quietly, thinking about the future. The Queen's tests awaited, but he was ready. Saving a child had been only the beginning. Now he would learn, grow, and prove that humanity could rise not just through war, but through courage, compassion, and wisdom. The child's soft voice called from the next room, and Kieran smiled. "I will protect you," he whispered. "No matter what comes, you will be safe." The hum of the ship echoed around him, a reminder that this was only the start of a new chapter. Kieran knew that his actions would be tested, his courage challenged, and his morality examined, yet he felt a quiet certainty. He had risked everything for one life. Now he would risk everything for understanding, and for the chance to help two worlds find a future together. As Kieran closed his eyes, he could feel the weight of the galaxy resting on his shoulders. Yet he did not feel alone. The child was safe, the Queen had noticed his courage, and the aliens had already begun to see him as more than an enemy. Had taken the first steps into a world of diplomacy, learning, and unexpected alliances. The sunlight glow inside the alien ship shifted as Kieran prepared for the day ahead. Today would be different from any other. The Queen had warned him that he would face trials designed to test his courage, intelligence, and loyalty. Kieran had no idea what to expect, but he felt ready. The child he had saved slept safely in the care of the medics. And Kieran knew that his actions would soon shape the future in ways he could not yet understand. A tall alien with golden skin and eyes that shimmered like molten light approached him. "Kieran, the first trial awaits. Follow me." The being's voice resonated in his mind, calm and steady. Kieran nodded and followed silently. They walked through corridors of flowing light that shifted as if alive. The ship seemed to pulse around him, a living organism guiding him toward the chamber of trials. Kieran's heartbeat quickened. This was not a battlefield, but the stakes felt just as high. His courage and judgment would be measured, and failure could carry consequences he could not predict. The chamber was vast, open and filled with strange structures that looked like a mix of nature and technology. Floating platforms hovered over pools of glowing liquid, and energy barriers shifted constantly. The alien leading him gestured to the first challenge. "You must cross safely. Observe carefully and act wisely." Kieran studied the platforms. Some were stable, others trembled, and a few glowed red, indicating danger. The first step was simple, but required focus. Kieran took a deep breath and stepped onto the nearest platform. It wobbled, but held his weight. Step by step, he moved across, using both observation and intuition. Midway through, an energy barrier activated unexpectedly, separating him from the next platform. Kieran paused, assessing the situation. The barrier pulsed with power, and he realized that rushing would be dangerous. He watched carefully, noting the timing and pattern of the energy pulses. Then, with precise steps, he leaped to the next platform just as the barrier dimmed. The alien guide nodded approvingly. Patience and observation are key. Courage alone is not enough. Kieran realized that the trial was not simply about bravery, but about judgment and restraint. He continued across the chamber, facing challenges that required both intellect and courage. Some platforms shifted under his weight, some emitted strange sounds, and some were illusions. He relied on careful observation, memory, and the calm he had learned to summon in battle at the end of the chamber. A door opened, revealing a second trial. This one was different. It was a test of morality. Kieran entered a room filled with small alien creatures that appeared frightened and trapped. The guide's voice echoed in his mind. "Free them without causing harm, but be aware that some choices have consequences. Watch closely and decide carefully." Kieran approached the creatures. They were small, delicate, and their forms seemed almost translucent. He noticed that some barriers required strength to move, while others could be bypassed with thought and creativity. Kieran carefully lifted, pushed, and guided the creatures toward safety, making sure none were harmed. Halfway through, he realized a creature was too heavy for him alone. Nearby, an energy device could lift it automatically, but it risked triggering an alarm that would end the trial. Kieran thought quickly and used a combination of leverage and timing to move the creature without. Setting off the alarm, the creatures reached safety, and the guide spoke. "You have shown wisdom and compassion. Courage is meaningless without consideration for others." Kieran nodded, understanding that this was as important as any physical test he had faced in his life. Next, was brought to a simulation room. Holographic projections displayed scenarios of conflict and diplomacy. Kieran had to make decisions under pressure. In one scenario, human and alien forces were in danger of clashing over a misunderstanding. Kieran's choices could lead to a peaceful resolution or escalation into battle. He studied the situation carefully. He noticed the signals that indicated miscommunication between the two sides. Using calm reasoning and clear communication, he guided both forces to understand each other's intentions. The simulation ended with a peaceful resolution, and Kieran realized that intelligence and empathy were as important as courage in bridging worlds. The final trial was perhaps the most challenging. Kieran entered a room where holographic images of the Queen's heir appeared, trapped in dangerous situations. He had to choose which one to save first, knowing that every choice carried a consequence. Panic rose briefly, but Kieran took a deep breath. He thought of the child he had saved, the bond they had formed, and the responsibility he now carried. Kieran prioritized actions that minimized risk to all, moving quickly but carefully, saving each projection in sequence. The simulation ended. The Queen herself appeared in the room. "You have completed the trials with honor, Kieran," she said. Her voice was calm but full of authority. "You have shown courage, intelligence, and compassion. You understand that true strength is not in defeating enemies, but in protecting life and fostering trust. This is why I have brought you here." Kieran bowed, feeling both pride and humility. He had faced challenges unlike any battlefield he had known. Yet he felt stronger, more capable, more aware of the importance of his actions. The Queen gestured, and the child appeared beside her. Kieran smiled as the small alien ran to him. "You have done well," he said softly. The child laughed, a sound that filled the room with warmth. Kieran realized that this bond had guided him through the trials and given him clarity in every decision. As they left the chamber, Kieran noticed the subtle glances of council members who had watched his trials. Some nodded in approval, others whispered quietly. He understood that their trust was being earned slowly. Actions spoke louder than words, and he had begun to prove his value beyond his role as a soldier. Later, the Queen brought Kieran to a room where the leaders of her fleet strategized. "There are those among my people who doubt your presence here," she said. "But you have begun to show that humans can be allies, not merely opponents. Tomorrow, you will participate in a strategy exercise with our leaders. Observe, contribute, and understand. This is a step toward larger responsibilities." Kieran nodded. He felt the weight of the moment. The Queen was offering him not just recognition, but opportunity. He could influence decisions that mattered, protect the child, and help bridge the gap between species. But he also knew that every choice carried risks. Trust had to be earned at every step. As the day ended, Kieran spent a quiet moment with the child. They explored a small garden on the ship, filled with floating plants and soft glowing lights. Kieran taught the child simple words in his language, and the child responded with curiosity and laughter. He realized that small moments of kindness and learning were just as important as trials and strategy. Night came aboard the ship, and Kieran reflected on the day. He had faced challenges that tested his mind, heart, and courage. He had learned that strength was measured not only by action, but by judgment and empathy. And he had begun to earn the trust of the Queen and her people. Showing that humans could rise beyond mere survival or battle, he looked out over the glowing city inside the ship, feeling the quiet hum of life all around him. The child slept nearby, safe and calm. Kieran knew that the next trials would be even more challenging, but he felt ready. He had risked his life to save one small being. And now that act had opened the door to a world of possibilities. The Queen's words echoed in his mind. Courage is not only in the act of saving a life. True courage is in understanding, in compassion, and in choosing wisely even when the path is unclear. Kieran closed his eyes, feeling the weight of responsibility, but also a quiet strength that came from knowing he had done what was right. Tomorrow, new challenges awaited. But for now, he rested with the knowledge that he had proven himself in ways that mattered. The child's trust, the Queen's recognition, and his own courage had carried him through the day. And Kieran understood that his journey was just beginning, one step closer to bridging the worlds of humans and aliens. As the soft glow of the ship dimmed for the night, Kieran felt a sense of purpose. He had faced trials that tested his courage, intelligence, and loyalty. He had succeeded not by force, but by understanding, compassion, and careful judgment. And he knew that the challenges ahead would shape not only his life, but the lives of countless others. Across two worlds, he had risked everything for one life. Now he would risk everything to protect many, and to show that courage, morality, and wisdom could unite even the most distant civilizations. Kieran woke to the hum of the alien ship, brighter than usual and filled with energy. Today was not a day for rest. The Queen had summoned him for an urgent meeting. Her message had been simple: your courage has been tested. Now your wisdom will be tested. A threat rises, and your choices will determine the future. Kieran dressed quickly, thinking of the child who had become more than just a charge. The child had become a symbol of trust and hope. He took a deep breath and left his quarters, joining the escort who guided him toward the central command hall. The city within the ship was alive with activity. Aliens moved with purpose, preparing for something unseen but clearly significant. The Queen met him at the entrance, her eyes glowing softly. Kieran, a faction of my people, seeks to challenge the peace we have built. They plan to seize control of our forces and attack human settlements. We must stop them. But this mission will require courage, strategy, and understanding. Kieran nodded. He had faced tests before, but this was different. This was not a trial inside the safety of the ship. This was real, and the stakes were immense. What is my role? He asked. You will lead a joint operation, the Queen replied. Your knowledge of human tactics and your courage make you uniquely suited to guide both our forces and yours. The child you saved will remain safe, but your actions will determine the lives of many. Kieran's mind raced. He felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He thought of the battlefield, the child, and the Queen's trust. He could not fail. Not now. The plan was simple in concept, but complex in execution. The rogue faction had taken control of a fleet and aimed to strike strategically important locations. Kieran would coordinate human and alien units, combining strategies from both sides. Communication would be key, as misunderstanding could lead to disaster. As they approached the operation room, Kieran was briefed in detail. Holographic projections displayed enemy positions, patrol routes, and potential hazards. He studied the data carefully, memorizing movements and calculating risks. Every detail mattered. Once aboard the command bridge, Kieran addressed the assembled forces. We have a chance to prevent war, he said. We must act carefully, use our strengths, and protect the innocent. Together, humans and aliens can succeed. His voice carried calm authority. Aliens and humans alike nodded, trusting the guidance of the man who had saved a child against all odds. The operation began. Kieran moved between consoles, coordinating strikes and defenses. Alien units followed his directions. Humans executed maneuvers he suggested, and slowly, the rogue faction's plans began to unravel. Suddenly, a group of heavily armed rogue soldiers appeared in the holographic display, attempting to flank the main fleet. Kieran reacted quickly. He directed a combined force to intercept them, positioning units to cut off their advance without causing unnecessary casualties. Tense silence filled the command room. Every move counted. Kieran instructed one squad to block the enemy, while another distracted them with precise maneuvers. The rogue soldiers tried to adapt, but Kieran's strategy was fluid and intelligent. Step by step, he turned the tide of the confrontation. The child appeared in the observation area, watching quietly with wide eyes. Kieran caught the glance and smiled softly. The small being's presence reminded him why he fought with caution and care. This was not just strategy. It was about protecting life and building trust. Finally, the rogue faction's fleet was contained. Kieran ordered a final maneuver that forced them to retreat without major conflict. It was a victory, not through destruction, but through intelligence, coordination, and understanding. The Queen's forces cheered, and humans in the Allied fleet did the same. Kieran allowed himself a moment to breathe, feeling relief wash over him. The Queen approached him, her expression calm but proud. "You have done more than I expected, Kieran," she said. "You have shown that humans can rise beyond war, that courage, compassion, and intelligence together can prevent conflict. Today, you have bridged worlds." Kieran looked at her, humbled. "I only did what I could," he said. "The child's life reminded me that every choice matters." The Queen nodded. "Indeed, that small life has influenced many. And now, you have influenced all of us. Your actions will be remembered, and your presence here will guide future cooperation between our species." The child ran to Kieran, laughing softly. Kieran knelt and hugged the small alien gently. "You are safe," he whispered. The child's trust and joy filled him with warmth he had never expected to feel in the midst of war. Later, in a ceremony within the ship's grand hall, the Queen formally recognized Kieran. She presented him with a medallion, a symbol of honor among her people. Council members who had once doubted him now nodded in respect. Kieran realized that he had earned more than recognition. He had earned trust and friendship across species. The Queen spoke to the assembly. "Let this day be a reminder that courage, intelligence, and compassion are stronger than fear." Kieran's actions have shown that one person can change the course of history. We honor him not only for saving a life, but for proving that humans and aliens can work together in harmony. Kieran felt a mix of pride and humility. He had risked his life for one child, and that choice had saved many lives and opened a path toward unity. He understood now that courage was not measured only in battle, but in every decision that affected others. As the celebration ended, Kieran stood on the observation deck, looking at the stars beyond the ship. He thought of Earth, his unit, and the human settlements he had helped protect. He felt a sense of connection, a realization that life was vast and interlinked, and that even small acts of bravery and kindness could ripple across worlds. The Queen approached him once more. "Kieran, you may return to your people if you wish, or stay here to help guide the alliance we are forming. The choice is yours." Kieran considered her words. Returning home would be safe, familiar, and comforting. But staying meant purpose, responsibility, and the chance to make a difference on a scale he had never imagined. He looked at the child, laughing and playing, and then at the Queen, whose wisdom and trust had guided him. "I will stay," he said finally. "I want to help. I want to ensure that what we have started here grows into something lasting." The Queen's eyes softened, a rare smile touching her features. "Then you will have a role not only as a human representative, but as a bridge between our worlds. Your courage, wisdom, and compassion will guide us forward." In the following days, Kieran began his work. He met with scholars, strategists, and diplomats from both species. He helped design programs for education, cultural exchange, and conflict prevention. Every meeting, every decision, reminded him of the journey that had begun with one act of bravery the moment he had chosen. To save the child on the battlefield, the child became his constant companion. Learning and growing, observing the cooperation between humans and aliens. Kieran taught the child about courage, honesty, and compassion, and the child's laughter reminded him daily of why he had made his choice. Time passed, and stories of Kieran's actions spread through both human and alien communities. He was not celebrated as a soldier or a hero of war, but as a symbol of unity and hope. His courage had begun a new era, one where trust and compassion could shape the future. One evening, Kieran stood with the Queen on the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly before them, worlds unknown, but full of possibility. "Do you ever regret your choice?" the Queen asked softly. Kieran shook his head. "Never. Saving that child was the right thing to do." and now we can change the lives of many because of it. Courage is not just about fighting. It is about protecting what matters and helping others when we can. The queen nodded, her eyes reflecting the distant light of the stars. Then you have truly become more than a soldier. You have become a leader, a guide, and a symbol. Your actions will inspire generations to come. Kieran looked at the child, now resting peacefully in the queen's chambers, and felt a warmth in his heart. He realized that the journey had not ended with the battle. It had begun with a choice to act with courage and compassion in the face of danger. That choice had shaped not only his life, but the lives of countless others across 2 worlds. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility and the promise of the future. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges and opportunities. But Kieran was ready. He had faced danger, uncertainty, and tests of heart and mind. He had risked everything for one life, and in doing so had changed the fate of many. The queen placed a hand on his shoulder. The future is in your hands, Kieran. Together, we will build a world where courage, compassion, and wisdom guide us all. Kieran nodded, gazing at the stars. He felt hope, determination, and purpose stronger than ever before. He had risked his life for the enemy's child, and in return, he had gained the chance to bridge worlds, protect life, and shape the future. The hum of the ship carried him forward, a reminder that every choice mattered. And Kieran knew that whatever challenges awaited, he would face them with courage, compassion, and wisdom. Just as he had from the very beginning, the galaxy was vast, and he was ready.